It's the sick show. It's the sick show.
It's the sick show.
There's been a lot of discussion about my chairs on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and that chair, I was looking for a leather chair, very specific. I wanted that size, a swivel, the nails, all that stuff. And I thought I found one down in Madison a few years ago when I lived down there. Went, checked it out. The guy had like $800 on this chair, and it was a nice leather chair.
I'm assuming that's not the one you.
It is not the one you're sitting in. So after having some discussion with him, he finds out I'm a local guy, or I'm local, and I teach at the school. I'm a principal there, and he says, "Hey, 500, $500."
Pretty good deal.
So I go home. I sit around thinking about it for a while, and eventually I tell my wife, "Hey, there's a chair uptown I want to go look at." It's at a store called Wow, What a Find. That was the name of it. So every time we drove in town, we'd be just driving along, and I go, "Wow!" And my wife jump. What a
What a
find.
find.
So I go back up there. It's gone. It's gone. So there I am looking for a leather chair again. And when I started really getting serious about my podcast, we'd moved back here. And I thought, I'm going to have a home office. I want a man space. And I just started looking online again. So I find that guy over near Dayton. And I show it to my wife. She's like, "Yeah, I like it. Let's go get it before it's gone too."
Well, it had to be a deal to drive all the way to Dayton.
It was. And it's a pottery. It's a nice chair.
It is
well put together. It's what I was looking for, and it has a good patina to it. It looks like it's worn.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a fancy new chair.
I mean, I like the swivel,
Isn't it nice?
and it's comfy. I have a lot of back problems. So
Well,
that
that'll
chair's
cure
great.
it.
Yeah.
That chair cures all ills.
I feel that already. My VA rating's going down.
So I ended up buying that one. Well, on the way to get that one, I'd also text a guy about two other chairs that were club chairs. They're actually downstairs, and they were like $100 for the pair.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
said they're rough.
Yeah.
So the guy messaged me about those, and I didn't say anything to her about those ones. We get this chair, we get it loaded up, we head back. And the next day, I messaged the guy, or that day, I messaged the guy and said, "Hey, I'd like to come look at them tomorrow." They were in Noblesville, so it wasn't like I was driving, a couple hours to go see them.
Dayton.
Yeah, and so I get down there, and this house, it's some kid that pulls up. It's his dad's house. Dad had already moved back to Mexico or something, and he's like, "Kid, just get rid of all my stuff." So we
Really
go
like
in
to hear the
there.
story about that.
The place reeks of pot. I mean,
There it is.
it looks like a party pad from the inside. I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?"
Taking El Chapo's chairs.
Right? Maybe. So go in, check out the chairs. They're stuffed into this little room. One of the cushions is all chewed up by a dog. The other chair is pretty much free and clear of any dog issues, but they're almost orange.
Those chairs were definitely used in a crime.
100%.
Yeah.
So I look at the kid and I'm like, "Look, man, I've already got a chair. I'm just taking a chance on these guys, but I'm willing to take a chance at $80. Just because I can't pay $100 for them. I just can't do that." And he goes, "Deal." So we load these chairs up. I put the cushions in the back seat of my truck, and I drive from Noblesville to Muncie to my kid's house. And we open the garage door, and my youngest is out there. And I said, "Hey, just so you know, these cushions smell like pot. It's not Dad that's been in here smoking." And she's like, "Okay." So we put everything in the garage. Like 2, 3 days later, she goes in there, and I put them in there to air them out.
Oh, I bet the whole garage was horrible.
She opens the garage door, and it smells like somebody's in there just toking.
Yep.
She,
Cheech and Chong hanging out in the garage.
she's like, "Dad, they stink." So anyway, end up bringing them back here. I found a way to dye the leather.
Nice. Okay.
So they're an aniline leather, so it's not like that where it's nice and shiny and already has some sort of coating on it.
Yeah, it's like flat.
Yeah, yeah, almost like a Ranch King truck. You ever
Oh,
been to
okay, yeah,
Ranch
yeah,
King? Those things. There's not anything really protecting the leather.
Yeah.
It's just the leather. That's kind of the way these are. So I dyed them a little bit darker, and originally they got about this color. Now they faded back a little bit towards the orange. it's time to dye them again,
Yeah.
or get rid of them. So I'm trying to sell them to Tyler Hunt. That's where I
Yeah.
want them to go. I want them to go up there to the
Barbershop?
barber shop. So
I love that place. Have you been?
Oh, love that place already.
I just took two of my kids the other day.
I've been twice and I only needed one haircut, so that tells
Yeah.
you how much I'm enjoying it
I
already.
think I've only had my haircut once, and I've been there like 4 times. So yeah, I feel that. I was in my recently previous occupation working for the city.
Recently previous.
I went up to the barber shop one day, and I was just kind of sitting there talking with Justin Morris. He's the
Yeah.
barber there, and our Blackford County development or whatever, they walk up, Ann Owen. She walks up, and they wanted to get pictures of the barber shop, for its opening. So I was sitting there, fully on my civilian gig, all propered out and everything, and I'm sitting here holding a thing of bubbles for their picture, for their opening picture. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I was there or anything. It was because Anne loves me as the drone guy.
Yeah.
Like most of the stuff that I've done for the city because she has told me about it.
Gotcha.
So it's nice to have someone on the inside, to give you the schedule and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's something that passes a lot of people. I feel like I miss a lot of things in town.
I agree.
Like, our fire station, they just got that new pump where they can, drop into a pool or into a lake or whatever. And that would have been something great to catch on drone.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was happening.
I thought at one time, and I just want to stop right here for a second. So just so everybody knows, Jared and I have never met before.
Yeah.
We've never had a discussion. We popped into these chairs and it's just turned into fast friends.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to get along really well.
I've been told I have that personality.
I feel that. So originally when I messaged him, I just reached out to the drone guy, and we've communicated once or twice via Messenger on Facebook. And I just reached out and said, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And he's like, it'll be an honor. And let me tell you, folks, it's not that big of a deal. It's just not. But I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But he's like, at some point in that message, he says, do you even know my name? And I said, yeah, the drone guy.
Nailed it. I mean,
the problem is, me as a former collector and skip tracer, when you told me your first name, it all went into play. And as you noticed when you came in, I'm like, yeah, here's where you live, what you did.
Yeah.
Here's your previous life. I know where you
weird
went
at
to
all.
school.
it's like you got drones in the sky or something.
I mean, I'm inviting somebody in my house. Of course, I'm going to do my work.
Fair enough.
But the crazy part is, it's not that difficult to find out that much about people anymore.
Not at all.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
This would have been, my life would have changed dramatically as a collector in the field had I had social media.
So that's really interesting. I didn't know you did skip tracing.
Yeah, for about 10 years.
That's like the coolest things because of all the info gathering that you have.
Oh,
to do
man.
for it. I love research.
It was interesting, and that's how I leave it usually. I remember being on a porch at a place over in Lafayette. Went to this apartment where this person was supposed to live. When I walked up there, you get a sense of your surroundings pretty quickly. You start noticing the little things that are happening. And as soon as I walked up, I could see the cobwebs that wouldn't be there if the door was opening on a regular basis. And so that clued me immediately. This place is, and the threshold of the door had just a different look than the one next to it. Nobody had been going in and out of there. So I knock on the neighbor's door, and the guy comes and he's like, hey, I said, hey, looking for Sally, any idea where she might have moved to? And he's like, no,
Never heard of her.
Yeah, just kind of being guarded. And he said, who are you? I said, I'm the repo guy. And he goes, oh, that's so cool. And I rarely said it like that, but I could tell this guy was going to be like,
He was into it.
he's the repo guy. So we start having that conversation. Next thing you know, he's like, she lives over there now. She has a boyfriend, and that's where she parks her car. She actually was moving her car before she moved because she thought you were going to be looking for her, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, tell me some stories. And I'm like, yeah. You know,
classified.
it's kind of against our policies with work.
So you did skip tracing for repossessions.
Yeah.
So I actually did repossessions. I
You
was
did?
in the tow truck. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, so you
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first got out of the army, that was the first thing that I did because most of the time that I was in the army, I operated recovery,
Yeah.
wrecker equipment. So I found something that I was used to operating equipment like that, and I became a repo guy, and it was wild.
Yeah.
And that was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Oh, that's good time.
Yeah, that wasn't I wasn't in a small area,
Yeah.
you know. That's
That's all right.
Nashville is massive,
Yeah.
and there is no shortage of cars to be repoed.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it was definitely an interesting 10 years of my life, and I'm glad I experienced it. I'm glad I got out of it, and there's nothing that I've done that I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have never have done that. I mean, there's a couple things. Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, I'm not a regrets guy.
Yeah.
I don't have many regrets, and I think I appreciate them because it's led me to where I am, and if I change something, I don't have the life I have, and I really like the life I have. And so it's kind of cool. But anyhow, digressing back away from that, God, man, get me on stories about repoing cars. It gets pretty funky.
I love it.
Because that day I got ran over by a car. By the boyfriend. Yeah. I couldn't get him to come to the doors. I knocked on the door. Nobody could come and answer. I knew they were there. I could hear the kids and hear them in there moving around. You can hear people inside. Like
your
people,
buddy 3 doors down probably told him the repo guy was
maybe. So I go to the car. Well, we were the finance company too.
Mhm.
So we sold him the car and we're it was JD Byrider. So we had everything in house. So I had keys.
Mhm.
So, but I didn't have any I didn't have any reason to take it that day. We weren't there yet. I was there to collect. And so I go out, open up all the doors, the hood, the trunk, and I'm like,
It's like a show of power.
yeah, that's literally what it was. It was just let them know, here's your car, and I'm going through it.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing this, I get on the phone with my boss, and I'm like, hey man, they're not coming to the door. And I shut the hood and I shut the car doors and I shut the trunk, and I turn and I see some guy like just fast walking across the lot, and I'm like, that guy's going toward the car.
He's got an objective.
He wasn't looking. Yeah, he wasn't looking at me. He was going to the car.
Yep. You can always kind of tell.
100%.
Yeah.
Body language said everything I needed.
Yeah.
He gets to the car and I'm like, hey dude, hey, here's who I am. And he said something. I don't remember what was said. And I'm standing behind the car at this point on the phone with my boss. And I said, hey, I need to talk to so-and-so. And he goes, well, I ain't her. And he starts the car up. And I said, I'm still back here, dude. And he hits the gas and just hits me, knocks me out of the way. And at that point, that car was getting repoed.
Oh, yeah.
There was no turning back. So I was in Lafayette, so I go back to the dealership in Lafayette, and one of the head people with the finance company was there. His name's Robert Rohr, and I tell Robert what happened. He's like, oh, we're going to go repo it. I said, oh, no, you're not. I'm going to repo that car. He goes, I don't think that's a good idea. I said, I don't care what your ideas are. I'm taking that car.
Yeah.
That's how this is going to work.
That was a spite.
So they call in at some point, and Robert calls me and he says, hey, they've called in wanting to make payment arrangements. I said, make them. Make payment arrangements. Get them to pay. Let's get every penny out of them. So they make a payment or two, and I'm watching this account like a hawk. On Halloween, I get a phone call. They missed their payment. Ooh. They were supposed to be in here by 6. I said, all right. So I called my brother, and I'm like, hey, Bill, you want to run with me to Lafayette to get a car? And he's like, I don't know. It's Halloween.
Is he already tracking the previous trouble with this specific?
Yeah, he has an idea of what's going. And he'd went with me before. He'd been with me in a couple situations before where, and he's 10 years older than me. So, Bill's Bill's a quicker trigger than I am, by far.
He's an average repo guy. Because repo guys don't have very long triggers.
He could be. Yeah, he could be. So I'm making arrangements to go to Lafayette to go get this car. In the meantime, they come in to pay. They call me again. Hey, they're here. It's like 7:30 at this point. They're here to make a payment. What are we going to do? I said, take their money. Take their money.
Yeah.
Put that payment on there because they're going to mess up and I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
So
Eventually.
we kept waiting and kept waiting. I ended up repoing that car about a month and a half later.
Didn't even take long at all.
When I got there, I took the car seat out of the back because I'm a nice guy, and I left the car seat sitting in the parking lot.
You are a nice guy.
I am a nice
When I
guy.
was snatching cars,
It was once
Didn't
again,
matter.
it was kind of a show of power.
yeah.
It was like, look what we just did. Here's your car seat.
See, I could be that guy. I'm gonna leave you your car seat.
That's right. That's right.
'Cause
So
I'm
that
not the
was,
type of guy that runs over people.
yeah, I never ran over anybody. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stories. Man, that's really interesting how people's paths cross that have similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
Any crazy things happen repoing? Any come to mind?
Well,
It's a lot quieter than people think.
what's your does your show have a rating?
What do you mean?
Like, is there certain things that can't be talked
No,
about? Because
no.
I got a couple of wild repo
Yeah.
stories. So, all right, well, you asked for it.
Yeah.
So one of them, I showed up to this. I actually don't think this was a repo. I think this was a roadside call.
Okay.
But so I showed up to her house because she had a flat tire on her, I can't remember what it was, Land Rover or something like that. And I go up to the door and I knock on the door and she comes and answers, butt naked, head to toe, not a single piece of clothing on her. I don't know if that was her intent or
Right.
if maybe she thought I was the mid-afternoon boyfriend coming by. I don't know what it was.
Everybody
But-
has a schedule.
And it wasn't. It was nothing fantastic. I mean, she was old, but I mean, I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
It was a nice day, but
Everybody has their thing.
yeah. And then another one I often repoed over on the west side of Nashville, which
that's fun.
for anybody that's familiar with Nashville, is not the greatest place ever.
Yeah.
And I was rolling through this really tight block, barely wide enough for my truck. I drove a Dodge 5500 at the
Yeah.
time, and barely wide enough for my truck. And one of my license plate readers goes off, and I'm thinking, I'm not gonna slam on the brakes and throw it in reverse. That's too obvious. So I just keep going around, and I leave for about 10 minutes. And I come back, and the car that it went off on is still there. I can see it as soon as I turn on the road. And so I get coming up to it, and as soon as I pass it, I put it in reverse to turn my
Yep.
hook or my forks. That way I can get underneath the front wheels. This car starts up. Dude saw me go past the first time. And I was waiting in the car in case. It starts up, and he just turns the wheel all the way to the right, goes over the sidewalk, through the grass. We're both like flooring it down the road, except I'm on the road and he's on the grass to my
Oh,
right. It
God.
was pretty interesting. I wasn't catching it, but I just liked having a good time. You got to have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, find a way to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's not
That's
worth
right.
doing.
Oh man, it was an interesting career. It was
liked
an
it.
interesting decade of my life. That's for sure, and I'm glad I experienced it. It helped me tremendously as an educator. I became
Can you elaborate on that?
well. You got to see inside of one's home.
Okay, yeah.
Going in, seeing what people are going through, finding out what the real story was. I mean, people don't want to. 99, I would say 99% of people are not looking to not pay their bills.
Yeah.
Most
fair.
people, and the high majority of people want to pay their bills. They understand they made a commitment and they need to fulfill that. They need that vehicle for some reason. I had repoed a car from a guy who was living in it, who was on dialysis 3 days a week. Without his car, he's not going to dialysis.
I've made a couple of exceptions on vehicles that I found, and it was regardless of what the account looked like.
Yeah.
Just because of the specific situation. I found a car one time its hotspot was marked as the Walmart in Franklin, Tennessee, which is I don't know if you know Franklin's a very upscale area.
Yeah.
Like some 83% of the billionaire or millionaires in Tennessee live in Franklin.
Okay.
And it was marked as a hotspot. I would assume probably because the guy worked there.
Okay.
So I go rolling through the parking lot and I find the car and I get all hooked up to it and everything. And I'm about to pull out, and then I see movement right in my rearview mirror. And I go back to the car, and this dude was totally passed out that he didn't feel me hooking up and
didn't have
lifting
any
his
of
car up. And he was out, man.
Wow.
There was nothing that,
Wow.
I wasn't gonna take this guy's home.
That's probably the noise he heard when
Yeah.
he realized he was hooked up, like his CPU just
Yeah.
kicked back on.
I just got an alert.
That's crazy. So how do we go from number one? How the hell do I go from that to teaching to principal to
We're just gonna talk about everything.
I guess
You told me that we were here to talk about drones. That's a
well,
lie.
that's what I'm going to now. And that was my segue. Uh, how do you go from you know Frankton, Indiana military?
Yep.
So
Army, 13 years.
yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about what did you do in the army?
So I joined the army a month after my 18th birthday, month and 8 days. April 30th, 2009, I joined the Indiana Guard as an 11 Charlie, which is a mortarman.
Okay.
A lot of loud booms. I did that for just under 3 years. I was stationed at the 1st Battalion, 293rd Infantry up in Fort Wayne, which their Alpha Company is the one that's here in Hartford City now.
Okay.
It didn't used to be. And so, yeah, I did that for about 2.5 years. During that time, I met my wife, Jessica. We got married, and she became pregnant with our first child together, which she already had a son when we met, Tyson. He
Okay.
was 3 at the time. Just turned 16 last month. I'm not even going to go there right now, but so we kind of decided together because the National Guard in and of itself is good, to help if you want, your college paid for, if you
Sure.
want a partial commitment that has, considerable benefits that go with it. But it's not great to build a family on.
Okay.
We're talking, $300 a month was what I was making back then.
Wow.
So I switched over to active duty, directly switched. Now, at some point during my time in the Guard, I had blown out my left eardrum. So they wouldn't let me stay infantry, switching over to active duty. So I had to become a 91 Bravo wheeled
Okay.
vehicle mechanic,
All right.
which I stayed doing that for 9 years. Traveled around the world a couple times, 2 combat tours.
Wow.
I've been stationed in Hawaii, South Korea, Virginia, Kentucky twice. I've been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, UK, Germany, Ireland. I mean, I've been everywhere.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of traveling.
Once you get out of a small town and you see the world for what it really is, how much different does small town living look?
So, I was experiencing what I decided to call dream phases. So, going to Virginia, I had been, as a teenager, I had traveled a bit. I've been to other states before I was in the military, but so Virginia wasn't anything too special. Now we did end up having that first child while I was in training in Virginia.
Okay.
We almost lost him and my wife, so she was allowed to move down to Virginia with me while I was training, which is not common.
Right.
Unless your training lasts more than 13 months, then they can move your family down. So she came down there, and we were supposed to go to Hawaii in October of 2012, and then Nikolai ended up being born October 28th of 2012. So we waited until December to go to Hawaii. And then we had Edward, my youngest, in Hawaii. He was born in 2014. I was brought back as an emergency from Afghanistan because, again, my wife ended up being high risk with that child also. So we almost lost her and Edward. And so I came home after 5 months in Afghanistan, which unfortunately was not quick enough. We had Afghanistan was a really rough one. So came home and had Edward, and that he still tells everybody Hawaii is his home. He's a Hawaii baby. He was born in Kapiolani Women's and Children's Medical Center in Honolulu, so he tells everyone he's a Hawaii baby.
Yeah.
I'm Hawaiian. Like, I mean, you're native, but you're not Hawaiian.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, it was an incredible life.
Yeah.
I got to do a lot of really incredible things, and I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
I think any combat vet will tell you that at some point in their life they miss combat, even though it seems like something that would be really hard to miss.
Sure.
But, just make the best of it every day.
So what was was there culture shock in any of those places, or when you're on a base? I'm not a military guy. My dad was, but when you're on base, is it more bubbled than and feel more American culture wise than if you were out away? You know, Korea. You mentioned
Yeah.
Korea. That's
I'm
that's got to be culturally very different than what you're experiencing.
I will say on base, I don't know if it's on purpose, but they do really good at keeping it Americanized, I
Sure.
guess you could say. I mean, when we
People
have,
people can never see our air quotes. I
yeah,
love that. It's like,
that's why I try to italicize it with
yeah,
my voice.
I like it.
Americanized. Sound like George W.
There it is. Oh man.
Just get on over here and don't be a hypocritizer. No, yeah, but I mean, you can definitely tell the difference as soon as you go off base. Like, I mean, you can tell you're in Korea because
Yeah.
there's just people everywhere. We don't. I mean, we have a couple of large cities in the U.S. You know, your L.A.'s, your New York's,
Right.
where there's always a ton of people walking around. But Asia, I mean, it's a whole other world. Like, there's, I don't even. It's hard to explain. Like they say when you're doing your incoming brief to Korea, like they're warning you about because married soldiers can drive while they're over there.
Okay.
If you're a single soldier, you cannot. But they warn you, like in Korea, there's an average of like 4,000 cameras per square mile. So there's nothing that you're going to do that isn't seen.
Wow.
It's an extremely high tech country. Like the amount of wires that you see going over buildings in most Korean cities would remind you of when we had telephone operators that had to plug out the cord and plug it back in. I think there's a picture Jack Beckley just put up recently of the one that used to be in Hartford.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, that's what Korean cities look like because there's so much technology there.
Wow.
It's crazy. We stayed in a hotel one time that was shaped like a briefcase. I know it was really random and out of nowhere, but I just thought of it.
That's the fun stuff I'm looking
Yeah,
for, man.
it was shaped like a Gucci suitcase. Like
Wow.
even the windows were the Gucci symbol, like design and stuff. It was crazy. That was in I can't remember. Starts with a B. Busan.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I always wondered,
There's
if
so much weird stuff.
what you see in pictures, what you see on TV and news and so on, just people everywhere in these
Mhm.
larger cities. Is that the reality of what you see? Because you know as well as I do, you can frame something.
Yeah.
You can frame something with a camera to make it
Hawaiian
appear.
postcards.
Oh
Hawaiian
yeah,
postcards
yeah,
are highly framed.
yeah.
I was so pissed off when I got to Hawaii and realized that you can rarely ever go over 30 on the interstate because there's so many cars.
Oh my gosh. See, that's information that you don't think about.
Yeah. And no one tells you because then you won't want to go,
Right.
Hawaii being a vacation spot. No one wants to spend 3/10 of their vacation in traffic.
Right. Oh my God, that's terrible.
Now, I will say driving in Korea, though, that's nice. It was hard to get used to the U.S. when we got back here
Really?
because there's like traffic lights are optional. Like, oh yeah.
That's fun.
A really weird thing is, so if you're sitting at a stoplight, right, and you have to turn left, and the light turns green, they won't turn left. They don't turn left unless they have a protected left turn where they have the green arrow. So
Oh,
all lights
interesting.
green, no traffic coming, they won't turn. It's yeah. And no one warned you about that in that brief I talked about either. I'm sitting there like trying to honk, like, why aren't you going?
It made me think about the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
I think about that when I'm driving on country roads and you're coming up to that four-way and it's just fields,
Yep.
for miles.
Every time I come back from Muncie
You
on
c-
the 100.
You can't do it today. They've got it blocked again. It's, it's just wide open fields. There's no cars coming
Yep.
anyway. Are you stopping?
No. Now generally I will slow down at least.
Yeah.
Like I'll
Yeah.
get pretty slow, 10, 15
Yeah.
miles an hour to make sure no one's coming.
I think what roundabouts have done have put me more in the mode of I'm rolling through that
Yeah.
because
This is Noblesville's fault.
yeah, 100% Hamilton County, they have got me
Calling you out.
right. But for real though, like I think about I stopped at stop signs for most of my life.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a roundabout frequenter, I don't know how else to
Yeah.
say that.
That's a good one. I like it.
Frequenter.
I thought you said freak at first. But
I'm a roundabout freak.
yeah.
No, frequenter. Now I catch myself just rolling through stop signs.
Yep.
And
Korea did that to me.
is it okay? And it's like
Stop lights.
spirit of the law versus letter of the law. What is the purpose? I know what the purpose of the stop sign is. I'm not dumb,
Yeah.
but does a bear shit in the woods? You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those.
Usually.
You would think.
Unless it's a city bear.
Right. So I'm kind of rolling through stop signs now. So
I don't see that there's any issue with that.
not in town. I don't do that in town.
No,
Town's
yeah.
a different thing.
Yeah.
But
Let me ask you something that not many people think about, because everybody has an opinion about this. Oh, you shouldn't speed. You guys should obey all the traffic laws. You're on a country road, let's say 100 West. No one around except you.
mm-hmm.
What's your driving position in that road?
Oh, it's somewhat middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the center.
Mostly middle.
Guess what?
Yeah.
You have failed to maintain your lane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody who drives on a country, who
100%.
grew up in a country town, knows you drive in the center of the road for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, the roads are more slanted in the country, so
Yeah.
they don't flood easily.
Yep.
Two, that gives you the most reaction time. If something comes out of the right side,
Yep.
if something comes out of the left, you're dead in the middle.
That's the way we were taught.
Yeah.
You know.
That's how I learned to drive in my grandpa's '57 Chevy.
Nice.
That's how you do it. You
Gosh,
stay in the
man.
middle of the road.
That's
Because then you can let go of the wheel, and since they're both sides are leaning different ways,
right.
it keeps you more
It'll
straight.
keep you straight. But you're right. It is a safety thing as well as just the way the road is. But
Yeah.
it's a safety thing.
It makes sense.
It makes 100% of sense. Now, we've been pretty lucky around here. You hear the trash truck?
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me what comes through the microphone.
I can hear it right now.
There it is.
I thought it was a train for a second.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting how there is a culture that happens in small town America that is different than what a city life might be.
Yeah.
I mean, the language is a little bit different. The way we drive is a little bit different.
The language is a
pace.
lot different.
Yeah.
I'm walking here.
I'm over here. Just so many different things. I love living in a small town. I've always lived in a small town.
Yep.
I was born in a small town. I'll probably die in a small town. We should write a song
Sound
about
really
that.
familiar.
Some people say it's familiarity, but
A little guitar hook in there.
yeah, but I think it's really interesting how the culture of a small town becomes its own.
Oh yeah.
It creates an identity, and there's identities within each of them as well. I've lived in Hartford City. I've lived in Madison, Indiana, and each of them have their own identity. The things that they that are beholden to them,
Yeah.
that are really important to them, and the way people respond to any kind of change is really interesting to see. And I've got to watch couple different ebb and flows through my lens, watching both towns change and grow or change and decline. And it's been interesting in Madison. And I asked this, I'm getting ready to ask a question about this to you, but in Madison, when I moved there, I was welcomed. I felt like my wife and I were welcomed with open arms. I became a part of the community because I was principal very quickly. My wife didn't feel that as much because she wasn't as involved. She worked
Right.
across the river in Carrollton. But anywhere we went, we felt very welcomed. Have you experienced that here?
In Hartford City?
Yeah.
I did not at first.
Yeah.
Now I will say that there was a huge difference in between when we first moved here. Because we had a couple of people that came over and introduced themselves,
Yeah.
next door neighbors and stuff, which is, I think, normal. But I don't know, like, it's kind of weird. Once I became the drone guy, that was my italicized air quotes.
Yeah.
Once I became the drone guy, I feel like it changed a lot, which is weird because I feel like someone, whether I'm the drone guy or whether I'm Jarrod Kitchen, I'm still the same person.
Yeah.
So I don't get why there's a different level of treatment there. And it's not like anybody went out of their way to be unfriendly.
Sure.
It's that I'm from Frankton. I grew up in Frankton. I've lived my whole life until I joined the military in Frankton. So maybe that's the difference. Everyone knew me there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like there's some people that I'll still occasionally meet that are like, "Oh, how long have you guys been here?" and I'm like, 2 years? The city isn't that big.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows my house. They know it as the Forkham
That's
house.
right. It'll be forever the Forkham
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
And that's going to be the kitchen house.
All right.
Eventually. Maybe
I like
like
it.
a couple
Hey,
generations
there
down.
we go.
But
It takes some time.
kitchen manor. That's what
The kitchen manor. It's, man.
Got to make it sound fancy.
Established 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it must not have been. I moved back in 22 as well. I think we were pretty.
February was when.
Okay. So ours was April.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we bought this house in April of 22. Now I lived here all but 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
You know, grew up in town down where the junkyard is, actually where there's ponds in the junkyard now. That's where I grew up. And then we moved to South Cherry. So my high school years, I lived on South Cherry down near what was once the DAV. It's owned by Guffey.
Is that the guy that has that Mercedes Unimog?
Yeah, the
Okay,
Unimogs
yeah.
and all that. Yeah. So, oh man, we've got to see a lot of cool things come through there. He's actually a nostalgia race car, drag car, and race car collector as well.
I really need to meet this guy.
You do need to meet him. He owns Granny's Bloomers.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So he owns quite a few properties.
Is he a veteran also?
I don't know if Mike is or not.
I thought he was.
I'm
I
not
thought I heard
100% sure. I don't. He's like probably old enough to be a parent of me. He's married to one of my friends' moms, and Linda Ridgway is just a great lady.
Yeah.
And but anyhow, but Mike Guffey's someone you need to meet. Mike's a great guy, interesting guy,
Yeah.
and just a quality human being. So,
Does he also own where the drive-in used to be? I've seen him out there with his Unimog a couple times.
I don't know if that's his or not.
You know where I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Was that where the X-rated drive-in was? It really?
Yeah.
That was the X-rated one? I never even knew about this, and then I saw it on Facebook a couple of months ago, people talking about it. That sounds awesome.
Dude, that thing brought people in from all across the country.
Yeah, probably.
It was insane. Now,
where else do you get to see a 25-foot tall booby?
I've yet to...
A whale show? I mean,
maybe? I don't... interesting.
I don't know that they do that.
I've never been in Taiwan, so I'm not sure what they do there.
Full
But yeah,
disclosure,
so
neither
that
have
was
I.
that was the Blackford Drive-In, the acclaimed Blackford Drive-In, Triple X Theater, and yeah, so people would come from all over the country to go there, and that started. I think that started to decline right around the time I was getting, into my teens. I think that was closing down at that point, or may have already closed down. So
What would that be year-wise?
the mid to late 80s.
So when Jesus came back to the U.S.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's when it actually happened. Man, my phone's getting blown up
Yeah,
today.
you're gonna have a dead battery by the time.
Nah.
I told you that I get blown up. I've only got like 2
I know.
text messages.
Well, it's early
This
still.
is fantastic.
So we've got a little bit of a timeline of Jarrod coming in to. What do you think of that?
That's awesome.
It's an old railroad lamp.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was gonna say it looks heavy duty, like a, I don't know, an aircraft light or
Yeah.
something.
So it came from a railroad. It's some sort of railroad light. A friend of mine, his name's
ADHD's kicking.
his name's Corey Smith, and Corey was a teacher with me at Blackford Schools. He was like 18 years as an educator, and just said, "Hey, I'm moving on." Left education and became an antique dealer, and he's really into like antiques.
Yeah,
Mantiques, I guess.
antiques. Yeah, I like that.
We're coining phrases again today.
Does railroad spikes fall under mantiques?
I would
feel
think
like it
so.
would, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course. So they're rusty and crusty, and
Yeah.
100%. So that railroad lamp, I saw it when he first started. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna support my friend, and I went over to see what he had. And at this point, he was at the Mad Jacks over in Muncie, and he just had like a space in the garage,
Mhm.
and you could go in there, and people had like
It's mantiquing.
it was, and he had some really cool stuff. And I liked that lamp. It was in my price range, and I bought it, and I've had it since.
I like
And,
Did you wire it or was it already
No,
done?
he'd done that. Yeah. I would love to actually get a base for it, flip it the way it should be, so that,
Pretty cool.
it could kind of stand in that corner. But I've never done that, and I'm afraid that once I take it apart, then I'll never get it put back together. It'll be one of those projects.
It is really heavy though. Could you imagine
It
that
is
falling
heavy.
down on somebody's head?
Yeah, that it is. It's heavy.
That'd be a bad day.
Yeah. So it is in the corner.
I like it though. I love antiques.
it-
I'm all. I mean, my house is an antique.
I am such a sucker for something, that is.
Anything. Just
I am.
anything.
It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, look around. There's a brick over there. I saw that cashier sign pop up. It actually lights up. The cashier sign popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, oh, I gotta have that.
I like it.
Why?
Now
Why do I
you're-
have to have it?
I gotta take up with you about your on air sign.
Yeah.
It's not on.
It's not on. So when I moved the office around, the cord for it's just not long enough to reach. My daughter bought that for me, and it's not long enough to reach. The S is not on either. That was another one of those things I saw pop up, and I'm like, I gotta have it.
What do you know what it came from?
Yeah, it was wine and spirits sign. I've got two of them. I've got both the S's. The other S is down in the garage.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
Your name is so easy to do stuff with.
it is.
The Chick Show.
Yeah.
I saw your sign out front, the Chick Shack.
The Chick Shack, the Chickster.
You know how hard it is to do stuff with kitchen?
Ah, man.
I've thought about changing it because of that. Like changing it to something quippy.
Well, I mean, it's almost a feminine term
Yeah.
when you start trying to change it around, because it would be the kitchenette,
Yeah.
kitchener, kitchter. I don't know if that really flows off the tongue. The Chickster flows off the tongue.
The Kitchenator.
Kitchenator.
And that just sounds
That
copyrighted.
sounds. It does.
It
and it
would
sounds
be-
like I'm got to get a
A KitchenAid.
yeah
What?
KitchenAid. Huh.
I could get a
That is
giant
tough.
S like that, but with the, like the no smoking circle and line through it, because
Oh.
everyone seems to want to add an S on the end of my name.
Oh, put kitchens.
Always.
Yeah, yeah. People, when you get the telemarketer calls, do they pronounce your name correctly?
I don't even get calls for my name. I get calls for everybody else. I can
Really?
actually show you on my phone right now some of the hilarious texts that I have
Oh my
sent back to
God.
people asking for LaQuisha.
Where'd you
And,
get your phone at?
It's a Tennessee number,
Oh, that's probably it right
Yeah.
there.
but I actually just got a thing in the mail the other day that I could be part of a lawsuit against this collections company that are calling people that aren't their
Oh my God.
person.
Come on, man.
And I got pretty excited because I've got so many texts where I've texted these people back. They've asked me about properties. They've asked me about credit cards.
Nice.
And I always send them a picture. Here, I got to show you. And then you can, if you want, I can send you the picture and you can put it on your thing so your people can see.
43 minutes in, we've yet to talk about drones. It's
Or
always
horrible.
interesting to me how the Chick Show goes. It is typical. So, with that being said, how do you become the drone guy?
We're finally getting into it, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
So, my story to become the drone guy is somewhat interesting. It was kind of a spite story. So, when I was in the Army, I really badly, actually, all my life, I've wanted to be a pilot. And I dropped a warrant packet while I was in the Army to become a pilot. And they turned me down because of my hearing loss.
Okay.
And I kind of took up a problem with that because the warrant officer that interviewed me wore hearing aids. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it that you can stay a pilot, but you can't become a pilot?
Right.
What is the operational difference? Because I'm pretty sure that we both fail a hearing test. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of what pushed me. I've always wanted to be off of the ground.
Okay.
And the Army told me that I'm not allowed. And compared to the civilian route, it would be not only significantly cheaper, but significantly easier. It's very expensive to get your pilot license,
Yeah.
especially if you plan to go all the way up to commercial and everything.
Yeah.
6 figures is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I went the slightly cheaper route, and I started dabbling with drones. I'm gonna say 2015.
Okay.
I was still in Hawaii when I got my first drone, and it was nothing like the drones I'm flying now. I mean, it was a hexacopter first off, so it had 6
Okay.
propellers. The body was made out of foam. I don't know.
That's interesting.
And it had a GoPro camera that I duct taped onto the top of it,
Nice.
and that's how we got footage back then.
I like it.
The classic days of the drone guy. And I do still have some of that footage. I've been meaning to post it on some of my pages, but I don't want to. So, yeah, it's terrible footage, honestly. And I mean, one of the things that not a lot of people put in their brain when they're thinking about making videos with drones and stuff is that new drones, modern drones, don't record sound because all you'd hear is the propellers.
Oh yeah.
So you have to find a way. And I ran into this trying to do one of the Cook and Bell concerts at Weiler Plaza, which I still never fixed. So you're welcome to still go on my pages and hear how terrible it sounds. But I recorded the audio with my phone, and then I synced it with the video.
Okay, I got you.
But the problem was, for whatever reason, my phone really only picked up the guitar. That's it. Not the drum. I mean, you could kind of hear the drums.
Keying on a frequency there.
And you could hear them whispering. You could hear Cook and Bell whispering, but you couldn't hear them.
Huh.
So it was like you just got a badass 4.5 minute long guitar riff.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Oh, there you go.
While
It's
people
the
are
80s
moving
all over
around on
again.
stage. But yeah, I mean they've come a long way.
Yeah.
Obviously from that foam body hexacopter with the GoPro duct taped on.
Yeah, that's.
And now I have my current aircraft that I fly the most is a DJI Air 3. It's fully stabilized gimbal camera, top speed of 47 miles an hour, 45-minute flight time, roughly one of the longest in the industry right now. And I have 3 batteries anywhere I go, so I mean I can record for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I love it.
So is that what you do? Is that an income source?
No, I actually don't charge anything
Okay.
for anything that I do with the drone guy. I guess you could say the Army irked me deeply.
Okay.
When they wouldn't let me be a pilot, and so now I'm like an equal opportunity sharer. You know, I believe that everyone should be able to have the joy of seeing things from the sky without having to spend ridiculous money.
I like it.
And for people that don't know about this, you know, being a career type, like you can charge $200 an hour to fly a drone for something.
That's why I was going to ask, because I mean, I know a lot of realtors are utilizing drone footage. Farmers are utilizing drones now.
Agricultural.
It is such a
fire.
Yeah, such an evolving industry that continues to grow and continue to find opportunities for it. When I talked to Jen Gallatin about the esports, we kind of got into drones.
Yeah.
And just talking about how, you know, we have students that are playing video games and getting scholarships and then going on to colleges, you know, to go and get an education, but they're also gaming.
For that thing their dad told them would never get them anywhere.
Never get you anywhere. You know, like the people that didn't listen are the ones that are killing it right now.
That's
the
me.
ones that really didn't listen. I listened enough to go, yeah, he's probably right. Pac-Man is not.
Probably not gonna become a millionaire with that.
Yeah,
except if you're the guy that made it.
Unless you made it, right? I don't know if you're a Rage Against the Machine fan, but there's a lyric that's one of my favorites. He says, "Fuck the G-Ride. I want the machines that are making them."
Yeah.
And that's every time I hear something like that, that's kind of where I go. I'm like, I just want the machines. I don't need give me my old truck. I'm good. Let's give me the machine. Let's
and I mean,
bigger.
I have everything that I could charge someone $200 an hour. You know, I have it's a very high tech drone. It's not one of the cheap ones by any means. I'm licensed and all that stuff, and I just choose not to. There's no point in it for me.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, I respect that. I'm kind of that with this.
Yeah.
I've got some friends of mine that have another podcast. I'll give them a shout out. It's the Garage Talk. It's out of Gas City.
I've heard
and they're Gas City and Grant County centric for the most part. They have a great interview show. They utilize some sponsorships from the local area to help them get equipment and go out and do some different things. And we've talked a little bit about it. You know, we've had message back and forth. Um, I've gotten to know Ted and Conrad a little bit via that messaging, app, but uh, I don't know. I guess I feel like if I want to dump this next week, I
You
can be
could.
done,
Yeah.
and I'm not obligated to hold up my end of the deal of putting somebody on 52 episodes or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So I kind of like that idea of it. Would I love to be able to make a little bit of income off of it? Sure, I would, but then I think it loses some of what I'm trying to do, and I think you probably feel the same way about your
Yeah.
drones. It's very organic, and there's a passion in there for it, and your payoff is the man that picture that goes from the cross on the top of is it Presbyterian
Yep.
church maybe
Presbyterian.
across. I want that picture because that picture I want to blow it up and put it right behind you.
I can get that for you.
I would love to have that so I could get a print, and I'll pay for it if you need it. But
Well, you
doesn't
don't
sound
need
like
to pay
you
for it,
you
but I can
want
get it for you.
anybody to pay for anything. But
Do you want would you want it with or without my watermark?
either way is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, if you
Yeah, I
want the
get it.
watermark on there, it's fine. As long as it's not like in the middle.
It's just the
Yeah,
whole
just
picture.
the
All you
drone
see
guy.
is the sunset in the background in the corners.
Yes. Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
The drone guy. What is that? It's actually a picture of the courthouse, but
Yeah.
the watermark's
You
in
don't
there.
know.
Yeah.
It's a picture of the drone guy.
When I saw that picture pop up, I was like, "Oh, hell to the yeah. That's a great shot."
And I didn't even actually, when I took that picture, I wasn't going to. I wasn't there for that picture. I was there trying to get different angles of something in the foreground with the courthouse in the background.
The bird poop on the cross, or
Yeah, that was the initial
that was the
foreground. Yeah. And I was gonna tie a little wash rag to the drone and go up there, but I just didn't think that
would
was
have been
feasible.
sweet.
Well, it might be clean now because they're re-roofing it. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
that.
that's true. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, the Amish are over there working
Yeah,
on it.
I think you might have mentioned that online.
I might have. Yeah, I did because I was gonna go take pictures of it, and being the nice guy that I am, I went to ask first because
Okay.
they're Amish,
You didn't
and I
like
know
try
that.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I know that some of them have an issue with that, and
that's true.
sure enough, they do.
Yeah,
So they said, if you can just wait until we're not working and you can take some pictures, I was like, right
that's
on.
cool. Yeah, I mean that's the way it should be.
Being respectful.
100%.
It's hard for some people.
Well, it is hard for some people. So where does the where do you go from here? Is it just a continuance of just keeping the drone in the air and getting some cool shots and providing some, just some.
Yeah, we have some stuff that we have planned for. I'm gonna say the next 12 months that will be able to provide a lot more fresh footage. One of my issues that I have is that I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate local footage.
Okay.
Not out of any type of issue with it, but because they've seen it their whole lives.
Right.
Now, the Presbyterian picture that you were talking about, not many people have gotten to see that angle.
Yeah.
That's why a picture like that is highly sought. Yeah. But I mean, for a while there, if you go back into the earlier days of my Facebook, I have pictures of Dead Man's Canyon in California. I mean, I was able to get stuff that not a lot of people from around here
Right.
probably get to see.
Right.
So we have more of that coming up. Me and the family are taking a vacation up to Michigan
Nice.
to Mackinac.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have some really really cool footage from up there, and then next year we got a Disney cruise.
Oh God.
Now I'm not gonna lie, I was a little upset about this because you can't take a drone.
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
And I was so mad about that because it's on their website. They say, just like with an aircraft, you can't, but you can. See, flying on an aircraft, I can put my drone in my check bag, and it can come with me where I'm going.
Really?
But on the cruise, they said that if you get on the ship with a drone, they hold it until the cruise is over. So even when we get to Mexico, because we're going down to Progreso, Mexico is where we're stopping at, and I don't even get to have it when we get off. So I was really upset about that.
Why take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no need to take it.
So I figured I'm just going to bring my GoPro, and I'm just going to throw it up in the air every place we go.
Is there a drone rental anywhere?
Not that I've saw.
You go get a scooter.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Just hey,
I'd rent
kids,
a big one too. I'd rent something we could fly on for sure.
Let's go get a drone and rent it for a few hours, like a golf cart.
That'd be awesome, though.
Man, we need a golf cart rental here in Hartford City.
I would rent one because I don't have a golf cart.
I
I've
don't
been
either.
wanting one.
Yeah, I live at the golf course and I don't have a.
Yeah,
golf
how do you not have a? You could just walk outside and snatch one.
I know. Yeah, well, every once in a while, people start looking for their ball behind my house, and I thought about
Just run out there while they got their
flanking
keys in
them.
it.
See ya. You know,
We call that a vehicle interdiction in
is
the
that what it
military.
is?
Yeah.
Vehicle interdiction. All right, that's what I'll continue to call it from here on out. So the drone is going well, man. I appreciate the pictures. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. I
It,
appreciate that.
it definitely gives me, I've lived here my whole life, but to see a different point of view of the city is really neat and really interesting. Um, there were aerial shots from back in the day,
Yeah.
that you would get of farms or whatnot. Boy, how that I'm sure that's changed that industry.
It has significantly. That was one of the first things that made me want to get started. My cousin, he has done some of that stuff, but from airplanes, doing aerial photography,
Mhm.
and the amount that they charge,
It's ridiculous.
yeah,
It's
it's an
absolutely
exorbitant amount
yeah,
because you're paying. I mean, you're paying for airplane fuel, you're
right.
paying for the pilot's time, the photographer's time.
And they're taking pictures of everything as they take that
Yeah.
swath. So they're trying to get a shot of your property, and then they'll come around. And I lived out on 26 for 15 years, and man, we had a really cool property out there that I would love to have had an aerial shot of it.
I was gonna take a picture of it for you now.
Well, I don't want it now because I don't live there. Uh, but had I thought about, my neighbor had a drone, and this was back, 10 years ago. Um, he was doing, he, he was just then starting to do drone footage for real estate agents.
Oh, okay.
So, and we had talked about him doing some footage for my house when I was getting ready to sell it, of him just going down my lane. My lane was lined with catalpa trees and went back about, I don't know, 300 yards. And just that drive down would have been really cool to pop around to the
Yeah.
to the garage and then just rise up over and see the house and the pool and the property. And we
I
had
might just go ask these people if I can take a video of their house. Like someone just gave me an idea.
yeah, it's Renee Green that lives out there, and they've done a nice job of getting the property, keeping the property going, and they're raising kids out there, and that's what should be out there. There's a bunch of kids
Is
running
that on the
around.
left side?
It is.
All right, I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful place. Out there.
Man, it was. It wasn't when we got it. It was a mess. It was in foreclosure, and we bought it out of a foreclosure, and windows were all knocked out of it. Cabinets were all knocked around, and we had to buy cabinet doors to get it appraised. Put wood over the floors just to get an appraisal.
It's crazy.
It was in bad shape. I remember the real estate agent. She said, "Are you guys sure you want to buy this?" We were like, "We're sure."
That's how you know it's bad when the
Yeah.
real estate agent is willing to sacrifice
Yes.
the potential commission to make sure that you want the place.
She was too. She was like, "Are you sure?"
That's
about
also a
this?"
good agent too.
She was. She was fantastic. We were really appreciative of her. But yeah, we absolutely love that house. Was there 15 years, and I don't miss getting under it, fixing
Crawl
frozen
space.
pipes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, belly crawl
Yeah.
is the right term. Getting down the well pit in the middle of the winter because of frozen pipes.
Yeah.
A lot of frozen pipes.
Now we have a full basement in the house here.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of spots of it, and one in the back and one in the front. That, I mean, you'd have to send a little kid through to do
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
or at least not a human my
Yeah.
size. I ain't
Yeah.
fitting in.
I'm not good.
And it's creepy too, like when you're looking under there, because like our basement has really good lighting because we got the pool pump and all that
Yep.
stuff down there. But then when you look into this hole, it's like you're staring into the abyss,
What is really in there?
and it just keeps getting closer and closer.
Can you send your drone in there?
I probably could, yeah.
If you had a little drone.
They actually have drones made specifically
Do
for
they?
that now. They're tracked drones.
Oh,
that
interesting.
drive on the ground.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
They're only like this thick,
Yeah.
like two. I said this. We're on a podcast.
Yeah.
They're only like 2 inches thick,
Yeah.
and
That makes total sense.
yeah.
I never thought about that.
they're so cool. I
That's
want
just
one
a-
pretty bad.
Where we have come now we don't. now we don't have to have like little children crawling under houses.
Yeah.
To
I
bring.
personally liked it better that way. I feel like they're much more efficient. You don't have to worry about the batteries dying.
Yeah, but you got to feed them.
Yeah, but they're also way cheaper too. So if anything happens, you can leave it there.
How old are your children?
What? 10, 11, and 16. The 16-year-old can't fit. He's bigger than both of us.
Oh,
So
there you go, man. That makes it a little bit tough.
he's
But it's just interesting to me to see where that has gone. It didn't even exist that I know of. I'm sure it did exist when I was, in my teens, but as it's progressed, you would see them first, see the first drones, the commercial, available consumer drones.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. You would see the first consumer drones pop up in Walmart and wherever, and they were like what, maybe $100 or
If
something.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and you would fly them once, they would crash, and it was over.
Yep.
I never bought one because I knew I would fly it once, I would crash it, and I just wasted $100 for me to go, ooh,
Well, Scott, I can assure you that that is still the case, even with advanced drones.
Okay.
Except now they're a lot more than $100, and it hurts a lot more.
It's a lot more than ooh,
Yeah.
ah.
There's crashes are imminent.
Yeah.
They're gonna happen, whether it's your fault or the technology's fault.
I've heard that they have like homing technology to where if the battery's dying or they get too far, they'll return to their original.
They sure do. There's still issues, as there is with anything
Sure.
technology wise, but I mean, they're dead accurate.
Hmm.
So I usually take off right outside of my front porch, like right where the walkway goes towards Kickapoo Street. I'll take off there to go fly up to the courthouse and do my updates on the project. And all I got to do is just push return to home, and it'll come back, land on the same square it took off from all by
Wow.
itself. Yeah. But there's issues. So there's a phenomena called runaway drone, which is something that still happens. Excuse me. And it's usually the result of some sort of a radio interference,
Okay.
or if there's too much going on. Let's say you're flying over a big event where they're using a lot of walkie-talkies.
Gotcha.
That's a perfect example of it. And what happens is that the drone will just continue to do whatever the last order you gave it from the remote before it lost that signal. But the problem is that because it's interference, it doesn't consider it as lost signal. Now, if it loses signal, automatic return to home.
Okay.
But it doesn't sense it as a lost
Interesting.
signal.
Okay.
It senses it as it's still receiving a signal, but it's a false one. And so you can get a runaway drone to where you crash into a building or it just takes off without you touching the remote.
Is there a GPS on it so you can locate it?
Well, depending on what one you get, but like mine, yeah, all of
Yeah.
mine have full GPS. They have a missing mode where you can, let's say you go down in the cornfield, you can push
Right.
a button and it's like these loud as hell beeps and
Oh,
all
interesting.
kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And you can also, if you really feel daring, you can use a drone to find your lost drone, which I've done that before too. I did that for a kid just north of town last year, right before they harvested beans, and I remember because that was their concern.
It was going to get harvested with
Yeah.
the beans.
Because so they lived across from this bean field, and it was one of the cheaper ones. I think they said it was $100 or so.
Yeah.
And the kid took off, flew out. There was a gust of wind, and it went down.
Wow.
And I actually ended up having to go out there 3 different times before I ended up finally finding it. And we located it the day before they did the beans.
Well, you just saved that kid's his hopes and dreams.
It still works.
Well, his hopes and dreams are still alive. He is Drone Guy 2.0.
Yep. And I hope he takes my job one day.
Man, how cool would that be to have someone that just jumps in and grabs a hold of, I think we all hope that someone grabs a hold of our passions and continues them when we're unable to, or, no longer here, whatever that might look like.
Well, that's generally why people have kids, or at least it used to be.
Sure.
Nowadays, it's considered wrong to tell your kids what they should do.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't get what kids are for anymore.
Wait till they get there, and then you'll figure out. You can't really tell them anything,
I didn't figure they would ever listen.
Was somebody telling you anything when you were?
Yeah, they were telling me all kinds of stuff. I just didn't listen.
That's right. So you went in the military, so you'd have to.
Yeah. Great choice.
I got no choice. I got to listen.
Now it did make me a better listener, though.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until it took your hearing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That-
Now I just simply can't be a
that's-
better listener.
God,
Or at least not on the
terrible
left
joke.
side.
I'm glad this guy's got a sense of humor because that could go one of two ways. And brother,
You got to, man.
I'm glad you've been here, and
too.
I want to do this again. Let's figure out what you got coming up and see if we can talk about some events, stuff like that you're gonna do. But
Sure can.
I'm glad you came in. I'm glad to meet you, and I'm glad to make a new friend.
Yes.
Welcome to Hartford City. If nobody's told you that yet,
You know what? Tim Norris
Yeah,
Jr. He was the
that
one.
guy.
He was the official welcome to Hartford
Good.
City guy, and he
What a
has
guy.
been an incredible help along the way.
We've got some incredible people in this town right now, young people that are, and not that there aren't incredible old people, but I'm just saying there's
Yeah.
some incredible young people in this town that are excited about the future of Hartford City and are active in it, not just excited about it, but active in it. And
Yeah.
Tim's certainly one of those. Tyler's one of those. You're one of those. Justin and many more. The oh gosh, man, there's so many. The billiard place.
Oh, I love it.
Matt Rubel,
Yep.
doing some great things. Ashley Lawrence and Nathan, and just
Love them too. They're really good people.
good man. I just saw him the other day. I was going to a graduation party uptown, and I saw him going into the record store. I'm like, hey, dude, I said, we got to connect sometime. Come on the podcast. And he says, you have a podcast? I said, see you later.
It was the other chick. He
walking
didn't know
away.
it was you.
He and we were in bands around the same time. So he was a drummer and I was a singer in different bands. And
See?
I used to. Yeah, I don't
sing.
think I can anymore.
Not many people know it, but I sing
I like it. What do you sing?
country mostly.
Yeah,
I have that
you got
Josh,
that southern twang.
yeah.
Getting
I have
on.
that Josh Turner voice.
Yeah, not me. Mine's a little bit more. Well, we did a lot of Pantera, Metallica, Alice
Yeah.
in Chains, stuff like that. So
That's
yeah,
sick.
then we had a lot of original stuff. So my band was Cuffed. We have
You ever be screaming anything like that?
a little bit. Yeah, I was never a Cookie Monster guy. I never did the Cookie Monster stuff.
Yeah.
But for sure I
Be
could.
like a pig. The pig. what
Oh
is it?
man, so interesting you bring that up. So there's a song, it's a Pantera song, and I've talked about this before that I have favorite pieces of songs, and you saying that reminds me of my favorite lyric, and it's Phil Anselmo screaming "B," the word "B." And it's a song, My Demons Be Driven. I don't think it's the name of the song. But anyway, toward the end of that song in a breakdown, it's like a heavy breakdown. When he says, "Bee," it sounds like a pig squealing. That's exactly, pretty much it. It's my favorite lyric of any song. Just the way it's sang, not the lyric itself, but just that piece. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a human being that made that noise. Now, granted, I love a good melody as well. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of singers out there where I'm like, damn, that lady's got a voice.
Yeah.
But that one struck me because I was like, man, this guy's just grunting it out.
Now, have you ever heard of Tim Faust?
Tim Faust. I have not.
Oh,
I
man.
knew a Charlie Faust, but I didn't know Tim.
All right. I'm going to tell you right now, Scott. When you listen to this, you need to listen to it with like headphones
Yeah.
like this on. This guy, his voice is otherworldly.
What's he do?
He's a bass.
Okay.
But like a bass.
Yeah, like deeper than Trace Atkins type.
Like bass.
Oh man, he's getting in there.
like,
It's like
really
he
bassy.
reached down to the bottom of the barrel
Yeah.
and found him.
I still had a
Okay.
little more to go.
Okay.
But he's with a group called Home Free. They
Okay.
do a cappella. But you like Man of Constant Sorrow?
Yeah,
So their version of that song, oh my
I'll have to
god.
check it out.
It is like it's crazy.
I like it. We're going to Bourbon and Beyond this year. So it's last year we went to Louder Than Life. This year we're going to Bourbon and Beyond.
Why have I not heard of this?
Bourbon and Beyond?
Yeah.
It's down in Louisville, and it's a big country fest. It's like 4 days of country music.
What about the bourbon?
There's bourbon all
Oh,
over
okay,
the place.
good.
Yeah, I mean it's
That's
all over.
what I got hooked on.
Well, it was.
I
it
didn't
was-
care about the Beyond. I cared about
right.
the bourbon.
Well, you need to do a bourbon trail. Go to like Franklin.
have.
Have you?
Yep,
Okay.
I
You
have.
been to Buffalo Trace?
Yep. Yep.
Man, what a cool place.
I am. I'm actually an ambassador for Maker's Mark.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have a barrel at their distillery.
Oh, how cool is that?
So it'll be mature in 2027, and then I mean I have the pick of the first 50 bottles out of it. So
Wow. How's
has
that
my
happen?
name on. I don't know. I I really don't. I was in Korea, and one of my buddies told me about it. I got really big into whiskey, bourbon, and Scotch
Okay.
collecting in Korea. Really weird place to get into that,
Sure.
but and one of my buddies told me, he was like, you can become an ambassador for Maker's Mark, and they put like you have your name on a barrel in the distillery and everything, and you get invited to the distillery when your cask is matured.
Okay.
So like I said, mine will be in 2027, and we're gonna go down there and
Nice.
hand pour and hand seal some bottles out of my own
Man,
barrel.
how cool will that be?
That'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
And it doesn't. I don't remember ever even having to pay anything. I don't think it costs. Well, I mean, when you go there to get your bottles, you do,
Right.
But
Yeah, that ain't cheap.
yeah,
Never been a bourbon guy. I mean, I like bourbon.
Yeah.
I like bourbon that's in like a clear bottle and it says vodka on it.
yeah,
That's
that's good bourbon.
that's my favorite bourbon. It's
I'm not a. Huge,
it doesn't age well around me either.
Yeah,
There's no aging happening. Yeah.
I'm actually as far as the whiskey, bourbon, Scotch. I'm definitely more in the Scotch category. I
Yeah.
love me some good peated Scotch.
Nice.
That campfire taste in your mouth feels like you're chewing on burnt wood. Love it.
I've recently become a porter fan of like craft porters beer.
Oh, I've never heard of a porter. I just know port wine.
Yes. Well, not the same. Uh, a porter is like they do it with like coffee, chocolate,
Oh, okay.
that type of, it's a heavier, darker.
So would
beer.
Guinness count as a porter?
I think it might be a stout.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's like porter then stout is the next step in that process
it.
or that, darkness.
I actually care about like my whiskey, bourbons, and scotches, but beer, I just drink.
Uh,
Not even
I
good beer.
don't-
I drink Coors Light.
uh, Only when I'm golfing
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
like
that's what got me into it.
nobody
not
cares.
golf.
Nobody cares. Well, cool, brother. We need to talk about bourbon and stuff sometime because it's I think it's an interesting topic, but I know nothing about it.
So, well, there you go. See, now you have.
I
See,
have-
you can call me back for if you want to have a veterans
Oh yeah,
episode,
we definitely need to
a
do that.
bourbon episode. I mean, anything. A
We-
working on stuff episode.
Working on stuff episode. I like that. That's a
I'd
good
be
title.
working on stuff.
Working on stuff. That's the working on stuff episode with Jarrod Kitchen.
I'd be working on stuff, so it
I
makes
like it.
sense.
I like it. All right, brother. Well, I gotta get back to work.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I really appreciate
Cool,
you bringing
man.
me on, man.
Definitely not as drone in depth drone.
No,
We didn't drone on about drones,
that's all right. though.
but we definitely made some friends.
Yeah,
And I think it's interesting, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're part of Hartford City, and helping promote the area. That's for sure. That gets me excited anytime.
Yeah.
Anybody that's excited about being here. So
well, that's the other big point. That's why regardless of the going out and getting the traveling footage, that's why there's still an unending
man,
amount of local footage as well, because people deserve to see their area from a perspective they've never been able to.
yeah, and we've got some beautiful areas here. Not
Yes.
just of downtown, but there's some beautiful homes. There's just parks, and-
Countryside.
oh man, I remember. I can't get into it, but there was a guy that came into town for a softball tournament years ago that was coming from like west side of Indianapolis, and he said, "Man, I couldn't believe how much corn and soy there was as I drove through to get here." And I'm like, "That's beans, dude. It's beans." It's just
Should have
beans.
stayed in Indy.
Should've stayed. I'm glad you're here, buddy, but it's beans.
Yeah,
But
it's beans.
cool. All right, brother. That's it.
All right, thank
We're
you, man.
out.